Hey guys, what's up? Let me tell you something. I'm actually packing my stuff because I'm going to move out. And I'm just recording this video because I was wondering if I could contribute in a sense of speaking, right? Because we both know that is the biggest challenge when it comes to, you know, having your own vocabulary out there. Because one thing that I really appreciate is when people start to realize that English is about communicate. Of course, I could say that I'm performing here. You can see this happening, but most of my idea is communicate myself. Make sure that I'm can justify, put my thoughts of that, sharing my knowledge, point out everything that I'm wondering and everything that I consider important to say out loud. But most of people, and I would say this is the biggest mistake, they just think that English is performance, period. Which, as I already said, is the case, but it could be more than that. In a sense of make sure that you're going to talk about vocabulary, pronunciation, everything and beyond, but you do have to measure your improvement based on the way that the other person will react while you're talking. So make sure that when we're talking, for example, about body language, gestures, the way that you move your body to complement everything that you are explaining, you do have to make sure that the person is following your thoughts. Otherwise, your communication is not that well yet, which which is not something that you have to focus on because we can improve, you know. But my whole point is, some people they think English is just about vocabulary. As already mentioned, it's not just the case, it's the case, but it's not only this, which means that you do have to make sure that you are going to express your ideas beyond that. So when I use my hand, for example, can you see that I move my hand just to help me to make me feel more confident in that sense. So one of the biggest thing that I'm working throughout my classes is okay, my classes, right? So okay, I understand that you are here, right? Because you want to learn. But guess what? You already have many words. So how would you use those words together? How would you communicate your ideas? How would you make sure that you could improve by creating a sense, having a critical thought, express your needs, make sure that you are going to qualify things around you. Otherwise, you know, one of the important things when it comes to English is, do I have enough words to start to speak? Okay, let me just rephrase myself. Do I need to wait until I have many words, a bunch of words to start my speaking? How do you feel about that? Do you think so? Do you think so? Of course not. So this is there is an expression in English where we say babe, baby steps. We are all developing or improving at some point. You could say, I don't speak as a foreigner. Of course not. But I can communicate myself in a way where people could definitely follow my ideas because that is all about what I want to point out. So, do you know the expression from your point of view? Do you believe Or how do you think? Or do you think? So basically, this person is now asking you an opinion for our opinion. So make sure that you can navigate this journey in a very, how do I even qualify this idea? So take advantage of your mistakes because, you know, oh, I do want to speak perfect. Girl, people, guys, it doesn't work like that. You will start first, and at some point, you're going to see your improvement. This is going to come. Another, and so, first of all, English is about communicate, not about performing. Of course, you're going to perform to help you sustain your ideas. Secondly, vocabulary. Okay, I could agree with you. I couldn't actually agree more. It is about vocabulary, but vocabulary is not enough. So, which means that you have to group your words. You have to set a sentence, a phrase that makes totally sense. Yeah. So, and thirdly, I would say make sure that you speak. Okay, you talk with somebody else that is going to be patient. And this is the third thing. This third is the most important one. How many can one speak? Okay, you have to start. Then remember that beyond, besides actually speaking, looking at you, whether in the mirror or at in front of the computer, whatever, laptop, make sure that you're going to have interactions. Because how do you even know that you are making yourself understood if you don't risk yourself? Take the risk. You know what I mean? So this is me, for example, taking the risk because I speak English every day, all day long, even though I don't communicate myself mostly with people who were born talking this language. Mostly I speak with my parents, people who were raised and were born here in Brazil. The fourth topic that I would like to explore is make sure that you make yourself comfortable enough and confident enough to discuss random stuff, random things. Let me rephrase myself. The fourth one would be make sure that you allow yourself to speak and to have a conversation about random things. Because sometimes we feel like, oh, I want to speak English so bad that you forget the content. So make sure that you communicate to yourself about things that you are willing to discuss. Otherwise, this is going to look like a robot. Of course, for example, let me take advantage of something that I don't know. Basically, I have no idea, no clue. Electronic stuff, um, I have a few students that I don't have any clue of their technical activity, technical activity. Otherwise, I try to ask, so when you are interacting with somebody else, make sure that you interact asking, be confident enough to answer, but also interact, have a appropriate conversation where you feel comfortable to ask as well. Otherwise, this is going to be a monologue. We don't want a monologue. And the fifth one, I promise you this is going to be the last, is allow yourself to speak by yourself out loud, in any circumstance. For example, if you're preparing your food, make sure that you know how to name ingredients. If you are taking a shower, make sure that you know how to name everything that is there in your toilet. You know what I mean? Watching some moves, make sure that you not interact, of course, but make sure that you are familiar with the environment. Those are those 5 tips that I'm going to leave today. So if you like this kind of content, make sure that you put some comments, you leave some comment. This is going to help me to create those kind of videos. Peace out. Bye bye.